Since I was a child, I've been creating stories and relationships with objects and entities I don't fully understand, so not always human objects. I grew up in Australia in an Indigenous art gallery. It was in my home, and this was Indigenous Australian art from the larger Maori community, and people would come to our house and do ceremonies and be with these objects and artifacts. And I would always create stories and be with them and try and understand. And I think this has really gone into my choreographic practice. I find them very comforting. It's a really amazing way to understand movement and be curious about what we are part of and within all the time, and how that's affecting the body, but also how my body is affecting those entities and creatures that I'm surrounded by. What is choreography for me? I approach choreography as something that's very flexible, so constantly allowing things to change and shift within a journey through a work. So I often work with imagery and, as I mentioned, with scenography and what is present in the space. And I set pathways through that space with my collaborators, and within that there is flexibility for the piece to breathe. I have a piece with Roland Walter, an artist with spastic paralysis. So this is an example of how, because he doesn't have full control over his body, there can be a movement that takes a little bit longer to reach the end. And this then sets the tempo of the work. And likewise, I lead certain sections where I might have a little bit more energy or a bit more push, and then he meets me in that moment. So there is always a relation that I would say is choreographing the work more than myself during a rehearsal process. It really happens in that moment. How does moving across thresholds differ from my other pieces? Moving across thresholds is an experience-based knowledge lab. So it's a way of perceiving limitations, barriers, and transforming them into thresholds of potential. So how something that could be seen as a limitation, whether that be cultural or a physical ability, or somebody being neurodiverse, moving and thinking mentally in a way that isn't familiar to a neuronormative body, how that can be seen as a potential to be otherwise, that it becomes an invitation. In this research, it's very physical. It's experience-based knowledge developing together and very relational, which is also very present in the works I make for stage. A relational practice with bodies we don't often see. And for this lab, I'm inviting Isaac Abenko, an artist from Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, who's coming to join us for the weekend, and a sociologist in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Giovanna Posignolo. And Giovanna is working with embodied knowledges from women of the periphery. So we're really connecting these three locations, and locations we may not be familiar with living in Berlin, and finding if we can create a threshold of potential together, that we can connect online, that we connect through physicalities and movement and develop understanding. And this is the invitation for participants.